Yogah Karmasu Kaushalam.
So, warm welcome to all of you. This is the third day of our short-term course, and I'm pleased to welcome Professor Asheesh Srivastava. He is the resource person for today. Professor Asheesh Srivastava, a brief introduction of him. He is a well-known academician in the field of education. He is an alumnus of University of Lucknow, Uttar Pradesh, and Devi Ahalya Vishwavidyalaya, Indore, Madhya Pradesh. A very popular figure among his students since the beginning of his career as a teacher. Professor Srivastava has served under the University of Lucknow, MIT University, UP, before getting appointed simultaneously in prestigious universities of India like BHU and Vishwa Bharati, a central university and an institution of national importance, Shanti Niketan, West Bengal, in 2010. Professor Srivastava chose to serve the ashram of Nobel laureate Gurudev Ravindranath Tagore, that is Vishwa Bharati, and served it in different capacities for almost a decade before joining Mahatma Gandhi Central University, Motihari, East Champaran, Bihar, as a professor of education. Professor Srivastava has vast and rich experience of traveling and delivering lectures to different prestigious universities, institutions of education of different strata across India. He is having a plenty of presentations and publications to his credit, and his area of interest is educational policies and programs. Professor Srivastava is also a founder dean of School of Education here at Mahatma Gandhi Central University. Today's topic is internationalization of higher education at NEP 2020. So we look forward to an enlightening session, and over to you, Dr. Srivastava. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Anjali Gokru. So at the outset, let me extend my heartfelt thanks to this wonderful HRDC of Gujarat University, the dynamic director of this HRDC, and my dear friend, Dr. Rushi Pandya and Professor Preeti Mayani for giving me this wonderful learning opportunity to be with you. And all my learned colleagues who are attending this short-term course from across different higher education institutions of India. My dear learned participants, my dear friends, my dear colleagues, we are going to discuss on a very important theme, that is internationalization of higher education. And this I will be discussing with my little experience, with my little intelligence, especially in relation to this document, National Education Policy Document 2020. My dear friends, my dear colleagues, since you all are learned colleagues from different higher education institutions of India, so what I personally believe is that you all must have gone through the document, which is only of 66 pages. And if you look at the policy document, the entire document, which is only of 66 pages, used the word international 15 times. 15 times this word international has been used. For example, if you look at the document, for example, they have used international best practices, international Olympiads, international workshops, international pedagogical approaches, international curricula, international students, international research efforts, etc. And among all, this document has focused upon internationalization at home. May I request you to keep yourself away from this mute unmute button, because we have very less time in our hand. So this disturbance will be abrupting this discussion. So keep yourself away from mute and mute button until and unless it is required. At the end, we will be discussing, we will be giving floor to for discussion, open discussion. So among all, this policy document has stressed upon, focused upon internationalization at home. So if you look at the document, other than this word international, the same national education policy document has used the word global also. So 15 times it has used the word international, and 26 times this document has used the word global. For example, if you look at the policy document, for example, global stage, global education, global ecosystem, global needs, global knowledge, global well-being, global citizen, global literature, global best practices, global challenges, global issues, global standards, global study, global institutions, global leaders. So such terminologies have been used in the entire document by using two words, international and global. Now, my dear friends, since you all are learned colleagues from higher education institutions, if you look at etymologically, if you look at the dictionaries, you will be finding that global is a word that is used to refer um, uh, uh, issues and concerns of the entire world. Global is the word which is used to refer issues and concerns of the entire world. While if you look at the word international, it is a term that is used to refer to issues and concerns of two or more countries. That means, that means overlapping you can see if you draw a kind of Venn diagram. Global includes international in it. So now you can easily imagine, you can easily infer, you can easily witness, you can easily understand, you can easily visualize the importance of the issue. So before entering into the theme of internationalization of higher education, my dear friends, my dear colleagues, let us examine the kind of status we are having so that we can reach to the expectations of National Education Policy 2020. So these are, because you all are learned colleagues and you all are serving in higher education institutions, and you all are aware on these facts and figures that there are more than 40,000 colleges and 1,000 universities. India has significantly increased access to higher education. Whether you look at the UNDP's report of 1990 onwards, or you look at you see as this National Knowledge Commission's report 2005 onwards. So great strides have been made so far as equity is concerned. From the present GER of around 27.1%, it is expecting to raise to 50% by 2035. But if you look at the policy document, when policy document was written, was prepared, that time the GER in higher education was 26.3%. So from 26.3% to 50% it is expected to be raised. There exist wide gaps, my dear friends. Since you all are learned colleagues, you are serving in higher education institutions, so you can easily imagine about these gaps which exist so far as this global gross enrollment ratio among the various states of India is concerned. So we need to cope up with that also if we are serious towards internationalization of higher education. So at the time when we are having National Education Policy 2020 in our hand, and we all are aware of the importance of demographic dividend, and I'm sure you all must be knowing the importance of demographic dividend of India. And when we are aiming global standards in our higher education institutions, my dear colleagues, my dear friends, I'm sure you all will be agreeing with me that let us not forget to recall certain harsh realities. Certain harsh realities. If we are truly serious to make this higher education global, or we wish to ensure this global outreach of higher education, or you can say internationalization of higher education, or you can say internationalization at home. So let us recall some bitter issues here. If you look at the studies conducted by aspiring minds, that indicates that more than 80% of engineers are not employable. More than 80% of engineers are not employable. A large majority of our grade 5 students cannot read their own textbooks fluently. If you look at other statistics, they say that this pass percentage of aspiring teachers candidate was as low as 1%, but somehow it has improved to 10% now. Mukhopadhyay reports that more than 32% teachers on the job were found non-employable. So we have enough experiences that a postgraduate cannot write an application for a job, or for a simple leave application. Misadventures by so-called qualified doctors, wrong treatment by so-called qualified doctors, collapsing of buildings and bridges, designed and executed by qualified architect and engineers, are not unknown. My dear friends, my dear colleagues, we all are aware of the famous sarcasm shared by Swami Ranganathanand ji. What is that sarcasm? Let me share that sarcasm with you. Swamiji was once asked that, Swamiji, what is education? Swami Ranganathanand ji was asked, what is education? He has quoted this anecdote in his book in the name of some American educationist. I am referring in his name normally. So Swamiji was asked, Swamiji, what is education? So Swamiji said, education is something mysterious. Education is something mysterious which passes from lecture note of a professor to the notebook of a student, using pen without using the mind of either. Without using the mind of either. And since you all are serving in higher education institutions, you can easily relate this sarcasm to your social milieu, to your context, to your environment. Let me also share with you a very interesting anecdote, which Dr. Smith has quoted in his paper entitled Outcome-Based Education. So there, Dr. Smith gives an interesting anecdote, where he writes that a young boy tells his father, listen this anecdote carefully, however, many of you must be knowing this anecdote. A young boy tells his father that he has taught their pet dog how to whistle. So the father asked his son to get demonstration done. The boy called the dog and asked it to whistle. When he asked the dog to whistle, the dog affectionately wagged his tail. So at the instance of the father, the boy repeated his instruction to the dog again. But the faithful dog responded with the more vigorous wagging of its tail. So when the father pointed out that the pet is not able to whistle, now listen this the whole message, entire message carefully. So when the father pointed out that the pet is not able to whistle, the son replied that, Father, I told you that I have taught him. Father, I told you that I have taught him. I did not tell you that it has learned. I did not tell you that it has learned. So this metaphor, my dear friends, my dear colleagues, as you can relate, has a lot of relevance in today's Indian education system. We teach a heavy curriculum, heavy curriculum, very heavy curriculum. And I'm sure you will be agreeing with me that we teach a heavy curriculum. We are all the time, we are anxious to complete our curriculum. Students fail to produce evidence of learning. What we are calling is that learning outcome. I don't know how many of you have seen the document of learning outcome at UGC website. It has uploaded plenty of learning outcome document with in a special reference to certain subjects also. So if you have seen, very good. If you have not seen, you can see at UGC website this learning outcome document. So what this particular thing, this particular scenario has been termed as waste of mind. So we were aware of brain drain, we were aware of brain gain. Now this waste of mind. We need to be careful if we are truly serious to make this education internationalization of higher education. I don't know how many of you have seen the first few pages of University Education Commission's report of Dr. Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan ji. If you, whenever you get time, just try to read only first 50 to 60 pages of University Education Commission's report. You will be getting plenty of insights. Plenty of insights. So there, Radhakrishnan ji has quoted few lines from T.S. Eliot, where Eliot Sahab says, "Where is the wisdom we have lost in knowledge? Where is the wisdom we have lost in knowledge? Where is the knowledge we have lost in information? The cycle of even in 20th century bring us farther from God and nearer to dust." So my dear colleagues, I believe that you all are aware of this debate between this information, knowledge and wisdom. Don't get me wrong when I am quoting University Education Commission, because you will be finding the same sense, the same connotation in today's market driven concept of total quality management in education, where we are referring taxonomy of educatedness. And under this taxonomy of educatedness, we are organizing this entire education system in 4 stages: informed, to cultured, to emancipated, to self-realized. So in the keeping in view this few lines from this T.S. Eliot Sahab, you can easily see, you can easily imagine that in the past more than 7.5 decades, we have made several mistakes, plenty of mistakes, which we are not going to discuss today, because today's assigned mandate is completely different. Internationalization of higher education. Before moving further, I am reminding here one of the famous lines from Winston Churchill Sahab, where Winston Churchill Sahab says that I like to learn but hate to be taught. I like to learn but hate to be taught. And similarly, Albert Einstein Sahab says that I never teach my pupil. I never teach my pupil. I only attempt to provide conditions in which they can learn. In which they can learn. Similarly, if you look at the analogy given by Swami Vivekananda ji, you can easily see he has given analogy of gardener, using this, how gardener facilitates growing plant, growing tree. So he considers teacher as a facilitator, And that is why his definition of education has immense importance. Education is the manifestation of perfection already in man. And similarly, if you look at the famous statement of John Dewey Sahab, where John Dewey Sahab says, if we teach today, as we taught yesterday, then we rob the children of tomorrow. If we teach today, as we taught yesterday, then we rob the children of tomorrow. Why I am sharing these things, my dear friends, my dear colleagues? Because this is the high time when we need to overcome our blunders and need to understand this the entire context of LOCFs, learning outcome based curriculum frameworks, in its holistic perspective. Let me share two of my favorite concerns with you, because you all are learned colleagues from higher education institutions. These two concerns I am sharing repeatedly for last 2.5 years since this policy document has come. And I'm sure when I'm going to share these two concerns with you, I'm sure you will be agreeing with me. Concern number one. Regardless of what language students are taught in, regardless of what language students are taught in, the biggest challenge confronting the education system in India is its obsession. Obsession for what? Obsession with mastering examinations through rote learning. And I'm sure if you look at critically, if you look at National Education Policy document, you can easily relate this concern to the expectations or concerns of National Education Policy 2020 document. Now, my second concern with you is Indian education system operates like a sorting mechanism, having a major concern of completing the prescribed syllabus than mastery over subject. Reason? What is the reason? Reason being to make our students exam ready. Why? Because pass percentage are the important key indicator for the accountability and responsibility. Let me remind you, as posed by society and parents. And rote learning somehow becomes primary means to achieve it. If you look at policy document critically, policy is worried on these two concerns. We need to take care of these two concerns if we are going to internationalize higher education of India. My dear colleagues, my dear friends, since you all are learned colleague, I don't know how many of you can understand Hindi. I am reminding one of the शेर here, क्योंकि पोस्ट लंच सेशन है और मुझे याद आ रहा है, मुझे मेरे दिन याद आ रहे हैं जब मैं अपना एक प्रोग्राम कर रहा था आज से करीब 15 साल पहले. एक प्रोफेसर साहब का भाषण चल रहा था और मैं पीछे बैठा हुआ था और मेरे साथ जो लोग बैठे हुए थे उसमें 3 लोग सो गए. और जब वो सो गए तो प्रोफेसर साहब की नजर पड़ी और उन्होंने मुझसे कहा कि अरे आशीष जी, जरा इनको जगा दीजिए. तो मैंने 2 लाइनें सुनाई थी उनको, वो आपको भी सुना देता हूं. मैंने उनसे कहा, सर ये अपराध मुझसे मत कराइए. सर ये अपराध मुझसे मत कराइए, आपने सुलाया है आप ही जगाइए. So may I request few of my colleagues who are having comfortable position and good internet connectivity to switch on their videos so that I can feel that I'm interacting with my colleagues, not with my machine. If you are comfortable, then only. Otherwise, I'm used to discuss with my machine for last 2.5 years. After COVID, especially after COVID, I'm used to discuss with my machine. So thank you so much. So my dear friends, my dear colleagues, let me recall here at this juncture the very important report, special report, especially I am quoting this report, 1990, HDR 1990 of UNDP's report. Human Development Report 1990 of UNDP. Why precisely I am recalling this report? Because this particular report brought a paradigm shift by introducing the concept of HDI, that is Human Development Index. Since you all are teaching in higher education institutions, you can relate these understanding from the experiences of decade of 1990 and onwards. So this particular report, 1990, HDR 1990, Human Development Report 1990, brought a paradigm shift by introducing the concept of HDI and in turn making education in the community as an index of human development. I'm sure you all must be knowing that today this education is an important index of human development. In order to calculate HDI, GER is taken into consideration. Span of schooling is taken into consideration. So this particular report of HDR 1990 brought a paradigm shift by introducing the concept of HDI and in turn making education in the community as an index of human development. As an index of human development. And in turn, running behind massive quantification and missing on several quality indicators. You can, if you go to the flashback to the decade of 1990, you can easily see, you can easily visualize, you can easily imagine that this paradigm shift of introduction of HDI in turn made education as an important indicator of human development index, and in turn running behind massive quantification because GER was one of the indicators of HDI and missing on several quality indicators. My dear colleagues, my dear friends, let me also remind you that the idea of common school system, which was recommended by Kothari Commission's report in 1964 and 66. The idea of common school system, which was recommended by Kothari Commission's report in 1964-66 and endorsed by two consecutive national policies. 1968 and 86. This entire idea of common school system reached to no logical and satisfactory end. Resulting into what to say, massive fragmentation in the layers of schooling in India. Resulting into uneven performance in general. We are going to internationalize higher education and we need to take care of all these concerns so that this time at least, because we had been very good in policy formulation and equally worst in policy implementation. Equally worst in policy implementation. So, if we are going to make mistakes so far as implementation of this policy is concerned, we will be suffering like anything, because this time we are going to lose the value of demographic dividend. My dear friends, my dear colleagues, let me also remind you the deletion of clause 23. I don't know how many of you are aware of this deletion of clause 23. Deletion of clause 23. Since time is less, I'm not entering into the detail of deletion of clause 23, but just to give you the hint, while constitution was being written, education was kept under fundamental rights, under clause 23. And then, before making the constitution final, there was a 3-member committee, subcommittee, to look at this clause 23, having 3 members, A.K. Iyer, M. Ratna Swamy, and Govind Ballabh Pant. They discussed, debated, argued, and finally reached to the conclusion that this clause should be deleted, and this was deleted. Clause 23, that means education from the fundamental right, deleted, and in the final form of constitution, it was shifted to part 4 of the Indian Constitution in the name of Article 45. Now you can relate the entire story. So what we deleted in 48, 49, again we got it in 2009 with the deviated version. My dear friends, my dear colleagues, let me share 2 of my very famous quotations, which I like most, and wherever I get opportunity to interact new audience, new group like and intellectuals like you, I often share these 2 things. First, I have taken from this Secondary Education Commission's report, which was chaired by Professor Mudaliar Sahab. Professor Mudaliar Sahab. And second, I will be quoting, which I have taken from Kothari Commission's report. So first, let me share few lines from Mudaliar Sahab, and these lines were being written in 1952-53. Mudaliar Sahab wrote these lines in 1952-53. Since you all are learned colleagues, you can imagine the whole social fabric, the total paraphernalia of education system in 1952-53. And that time, Mudaliar Sahab is writing. What he is writing is a democracy of people who can think only confusedly can neither make progress nor even maintain itself, because it will always be open to the risk of being misled by demagogues. And therefore, Mudaliar Sahab is expecting to make education such education system where sense of logical thinking, sense of reasoning can be inculcated. What National Education Policy 2020 is reiterating again in 2020. And second, what I am going to share with you, I have taken from Kothari Commission's report. Those who are having interest can read this entire section. I am giving you the reference of section, that is, I have taken this these lines from section 1.16 of Kothari Commission's report. Section 1.16 of Kothari Commission's report. It's a long paragraph. I don't want to waste your time and my time by reading the entire paragraph. I am quoting 3 lines for your larger understanding, where Kothari Sahab is writing that the naive belief that all education is necessarily good both for the individual and for the society, and that it will necessarily lead to progress, can be as harmful as it is misplaced. I am repeating these lines for your clarity's sake once again. The naive belief that all education is necessarily good, both for the individual and for the society, and that it will necessarily lead to progress, can be as harmful as it is misplaced. And therefore, my dear friends, my dear colleagues, it is us, it is the teachers, it is the teacher who need to understand the right perspective, the right context for education to take its proper shape or expected shape. So understanding of context is very important for a teacher. Now we have National Education Policy 2020 in its implementation phase, and therefore lessons from the past must be kept in mind while converting the intent and content of National Education Policy 2020 into actionable actions. Mind my words, into actionable actions in general, and ensuring this internationalization of higher education or global outreach of higher education in particular. We can easily infer that India is committed towards revamping and reinvigorating the entire education system, higher education system, through this National Education Policy 2020, by taking its rightful place amongst the best higher education systems in the world. I don't know how many of you have seen the covering letter, I should say, covering letter written by Dr. K. Kasturi Rangan Sahab while he was submitting the entire document to the then Minister of Education, HRD. That time it was HRD. So the National Education Policy 2020, if you look at the covering note of Dr. K. Kasturi Rangan Sahab, it says that the entire National Education Policy document is built upon 5 foundational pillars of access, equity, quality, affordability, and accountability. Recommends path-breaking reforms that aims at paradigm shift by equipping our students, teachers, educational institutions with the right competencies and capabilities, and creating an enabling and reinvigorated education ecosystem for a vibrant new India. This is the expectation. Now we all understand, because we all are teaching in higher education institutions, we all are living in a social milieu, we have enough experience to understand, to realize that this entire policy document is to be implemented from certain levels, and each stakeholder is supposed to play its own role in order to convert all the intent and content of education policy into actionable action. Otherwise, in the past, we have seen good policies, worst implementation. So each stakeholder, whether it is at the level of ministry, or at the level of regulatory agencies, or at the level of universities, or at the level of colleges, or at the level of any higher education institution, or at the level of its functionaries, or at its level of its teachers. Otherwise, again, I'm repeating, we have seen good policies with worst implementation. So we need to be careful. Every stakeholder need to be careful. This National Education Policy document extensively focuses on attaining the highest global standards in the quality of higher education. And if you look at the document, it further reinforces the need to attract a greater number of international students and achieve the goal of global outlook. I don't know how many of you can recall, if you can recall the QS ranking, which was done in 2015. 2015, where none of the Indian institution was there in the top 100 यूनिवर्सिटीज. और ये सारा जो डिबेट इमर्ज हुआ था, ये सारा डिबेट इमर्ज हुआ था 2016-17 in 2016 and 17 when Arun Jaitley ji brought a issue while he was addressing to his budget of the budget of 16-17, where Jaitley Sahab has said that in time to come, at least 20 world-class institutions will be established in India. So we all are aware. I'm not going to enter into that debate of whether any institution figured in top 100 or not, on top 200 or not. What is our position in BRICS? What is our position in Asian Times and Asian ranking framework? I'm not going to enter into that debate right now, as of now. But if you can recall, my dear friends, my dear colleagues, if you can recall, China up to 2012, you will be finding hardly any number of international students. Now, which China has focused on number of students, and now more than 4 lakh students are studying in China. And if I give precise example of Peking universities, it is having students around more than 80 countries. So any global university which has emerged in the international map, if you look at one of the common features, you will be finding that common feature is focusing upon international students. And therefore, with this background of QS ranking framework of 15, Times ranking of 15-16, with this understanding, if you look at National Education Policy document, it reinforces, NEP 2020 reinforces the need to attract a greater number of international students and achieve the goal of global outlook. The same policy document, this policy appreciates the critical need to promote India as a global study destination, providing premium education at affordable cost, thereby helping to those restore its role as Vishwaguru. But these big jargons can only be achieved by working at grassroots level and by all stakeholders. We cannot afford any mistake by any of the stakeholders, whether it is political forces or ministry or regulatory agencies or universities or whatsoever. The policy also aims to make our young generation of learners aware and understand the global issues and make them truly global citizens. And when I'm saying truly global citizens, these citizens committed to the core values, committed to human rights, committed to sustainable development goals, committed to global well-being. So the approaches to promoting this global outreach of higher education or internationalization of higher education, National Education Policy 2020 involve facilitating students and faculty mobility, establishing international partnerships for research, easing the process through which institutions can enroll students from around the world. I don't know how many of you have seen and how many of you have actually read the gazette notification of ABC. The gazette notification of ABC. ABC is what? ABC is Academic Bank of Credit. Academic Bank of Credit. And now we have gadget notification on ABC, Academic Bank of Credit. So if you have seen that gadget notification of ABC, very good. If you have not seen that gadget notification, today only, after the session is over, you can download this Academic Bank of Credit gadget notification, Government of India. Why? Because as I'm saying that that easing the process through which institutions can enroll students from around the world, and as well as the feasibility of carrying credits across institutions in multiple countries, and such other measures are being taken care for this national education policy document. And above all, this national education policy document calls for promoting India as a global study destination. And therefore, my dear friends, my dear colleagues, I am sharing one of my personal experiences, what I have gathered by interacting across the country since this policy document has come. What I have experienced that a large number of teachers, a good number of teachers, if I put it in the percentage form, more than 70% teachers, in spite of knowing that this policy is going to affect their active life, has not yet read this policy document. मुझे 3 तरह के लोग मिल रहे हैं जब से पॉलिसी आई है। एक वो जिन्होंने पॉलिसी बिल्कुल नहीं पढ़ी और पॉलिसी पर बोल रहे हैं, एक वो जिन्होंने पॉलिसी आधी पढ़ी है और पूरे पर बोल रहे हैं, और एक वो जिन्होंने पूरी पढ़ी है और पूरे पे बोल रहे हैं। So, my dear friends, my dear colleagues, we need to understand this National Education Policy 2020 document in its totality. And therefore, what I am personally using one word, decoding it, decoding this document, decoding the National Education Policy document in its right perspective is a matter of great concern. Is a matter of great concern. See, since this policy document has come, I am repeatedly saying that whether the policy is good, we need to appreciate it. Whether the policy is bad, we need to criticize it. Is both of the concerns are not going to help us, because policy is a reality and we are in the process of implementation. It's implementation. And therefore, in order to understand this policy document, decoding it in its right perspective is a matter of great concern, I am repeatedly saying. And when I'm saying decoding, I start with the 5 foundational pillars itself. If you look at the founding pillars of National Education Policy 2020, which are access, which second is equity, quality is third, fourth is affordability, and fifth is accountability. So when you will be decoding this policy document, and when you'll be decoding each founding pillar, you can easily see, when I'm referring to access, you can see the difficulties, you can see the avenues in terms of gross enrollment ratio, in terms of digital intervention, in terms of online ODL modes importance. If you look at equity, you can see the difficulties and avenues in terms of private players, in terms of digital divide. If you look at quality, you can see the difficulties in terms of avenues, in terms of resources. If you look at affordability, you can see the prospects of investment so far as the idea of Kothari Commission's report, that is 6% of GDP, is concerned. If you look at fifth pillar, that is accountability, you can easily relate with the UNDP's HDR 1990 and aftermath. So my dear friends, my dear colleagues, what I am precisely saying is Decoding National Education Policy 2020 is a truly crucial task. We need to be very fair and honest to ourselves, to our upcoming generation, to our nation. And why I am saying so? Why I am saying so? Because it is not that we are becoming so much concerned for the first time in the history of independent India. Not at all. If I remind you the report of University Education Commission, where Dr. Sarupalli Radhakrishnan is writing that we were everywhere struck by a deep general awareness of the importance of higher education for national welfare. And then he is writing, and a sense of uneasiness on the inadequacy of the present pattern. मुझे लगता है आज अगर ये हम ऑनलाइन नहीं बात कर रहे होते, आमने सामने बात कर रहे होते, तो हम में से हर व्यक्ति हायर एजुकेशन के इंपॉर्टेंस को जानता है, हायर एजुकेशन के महत्व को समझता है, खास करके राष्ट्र के निर्माण में उच्च शिक्षा की जो भूमिका है उसको समझता है, लेकिन साथ ही साथ वो चिंतित है। किस बात को लेकर के चिंतित है? इनएडिक्वेसी ऑफ द प्रेजेंट पैटर्न। ये बात 1948-49 में जितनी सही थी उतनी ही सही 2022 में भी है। And that is why I am repeatedly saying that we had been truly good in policy formulation and equally worst in policy implementation. This time we need to be very, very careful because value of demographic dividend is of high importance. Again, I'm sharing one of the anecdotes from Radhakrishnan Commission, where Radhakrishnan ji is writing wonderful paragraph he has written, few lines he has written, where Radhakrishnan is writing that while it is generally recognized that the universities should provide the best teaching over the entire field of knowledge, of which its own resources may permit, then he is writing that they should offer this teaching, to the widest range of students, irrespective of caste, sex, gender, reason, religion, language, etc. And then he is writing that they should extend by original inquiry the frontiers of learning. And then he is writing what National Education Policy 2020 document is reiterating in 2020. Radhakrishnan is writing, above all, mold and shape students not merely by the training of the intellect, not merely by the training of the intellect, but by the disciplining the spirit. Disciplining the spirit, what National Education Policy 2020 is expecting. And then what he is writing, and for this statement only I have shared this, then Radhakrishnan is writing, now listen me very carefully, then Radhakrishnan is writing that university men and women were aware of serious shortcomings in the functioning of the universities in regard to these matters. Now the question is, what is our status to these concerns before National Education Policy 2020? And therefore, what I am precisely saying nowadays, that this is the high time, my dear friends, my dear colleagues, when we need to come out from the copycat tendency, or so to say, blind follower tendency. And we need to think out of the box. And when I'm saying we need to think out of the box, let me make my point very clear to you by citing one example here. I do not know how many of you are aware of the report of World Commission on Environment and Development. I don't know how many of you are aware. If you are aware, very good. If you are not aware, today itself at least you can download this report. The name of the report is Our Common Future. Our Common Future, which is also known as, popularly known as, Brundtland Commission report, because the commission was chaired by Gro Harlem Brundtland in 1987. Why I am referring this commission? Because, my dear friends, my dear colleagues, if you can recall, if you can go to the flashback, you can find that ESD became a buzzword in the world of academia since then. ESD, Education for Sustainable Development, became a buzzword in the world of academia. I do not have any question on this, on the importance of ESD. I do not have any doubt on the credentials and credibilities of this commission's report. What is my point here is, if you look back at the Indian heritage thousands years back, and if you read Ishopanishad, it is very clearly and categorically saying, ईसावास्यमिदं सर्वं यत् किंचम जगत्याम जगत तेन त्यक्तेन भुंजीता माग्रदुः कस्य सुद्धिनम्। इस जगत में जो कुछ भी स्थावर जंगम संसार है, उसको आप इस्तेमाल करिए, उसका उपयोग करिए, उसका उपभोग करिए, लेकिन उसको त्याग पूर्वक करिए. If you will be reading this Ishopanishad and then you will be reading the Brundtland Commission report, you will be finding that this is nothing else other than the translation of Ishopanishad. But we somehow ignored our legacy and trapped by this follower tendency, blind follower tendency, copycat tendency. As a committee member of curriculum development committees in several higher education institutions, what I have learned, my dear friends, my dear colleagues, I may sound a little harsh, I may sound a little awkward, but I'm sharing this with all honesty. What I have learned as a member of curriculum development committee in different higher education institutions of India, that in the name of autonomy, we are copying and pasting instead of contributing. We are copying and pasting instead of contributing. मैं ये किसी यूनिवर्सिटी का नाम नहीं लूंगा. अभी एक यूनिवर्सिटी में जल्दी जाने का मौका मिला करिकुलम में, तो वहां के जो हेड साहब थे, उन्होंने करिकुलम रखा मेरे सामने और कहा कि बड़ी मेहनत से बनाया उन्होंने, बड़ा ओरिजिनल करिकुलम बनाया है उन्होंने. थोड़ा सा पौंडीचेरी से लिया है, थोड़ा सा कलकत्ता यूनिवर्सिटी से लिया है, थोड़ा सा कश्मीर से लिया है, थोड़ा सा कन्याकुमारी से लिया है, और अच्छे अच्छे कंटेंट को एक के बाद एक प्लेस करके करिकुलम बना दिया है. ऐसे काम नहीं चलेगा. ब्लेम गेम में हम कब तक रहेंगे? So we need to understand, my dear friends, my dear colleagues, and therefore, to ensure internationalization of higher education, to ensure global outreach of higher education, to ensure global outreach of education, other than many prerequisites, I am repeating, other than many prerequisites, we need to work on our curriculum. With all our original thoughts, with all our original thinking, with all our inputs from our legacy, true legacy. And therefore, as a teacher of higher education system, irrespective of anything, we need to have our sound understanding on some of the important concerns of curriculum, which plenty of us are missing, those who are serving in higher education institution, irrespective of subject, irrespective of discipline, irrespective of their position, irrespective of everything. So whatever subject you are teaching, whatever discipline you are teaching, whatever stage you are holding, whatever position you are holding, whatever institution you are serving, you need to have your own understanding, your own sound understanding on certain aspects of curriculum in order to contribute your original inputs. So I'm sharing these few of these concerns, very important concerns of curriculum. And these are some important questions which you need to think of, which we need to think of as an important stakeholder of education system. Number one, concern number one, question number one is, why is it necessary to understand the field of curriculum? Very basic question. Why is it necessary to understand the field of curriculum? This is the very first question on which we need to have our own understanding, our own reflection. Why is it necessary to understand the field of curriculum? Concern number 2. What approach to curriculum do most educators adopt and why? What approach to curriculum do most educators adopt and why? Concern number 3, and what I personally feel this is very, very important concern. How do you define curriculum? How do you define curriculum? Concern number 4. Why do most theorists define curriculum in terms of generic principles or processes and not specific subject matter? This we need to understand very clearly and categorically, and then only we will be in a position to avoid copying and pasting the inputs from the good institutions and making our own curriculum. The next concern, again an important concern. What fundamental questions guide the field of curriculum? What fundamental questions guide the field of curriculum? Another concern I am sharing with you. Again, this is important concern. How can theory and practice be integrated into the planning of curriculum? And an important concern is what forces, whether it is social force or political force, what forces what forces influence curriculum? Now again, another important concern. How do we define our educational needs? How do we define our educational needs? How do we prioritize these needs? What are the important guidelines to formulate educational objectives? So my dear friends, my dear colleagues, these are the important concerns on which we need to have our own understanding, and then we will be in a better position to contribute our original inputs to the field of curriculum of your own respective discipline. I have already referred, you can visit this LOCFs uploaded by UGC website, at UGC website. But if you look at curriculum, I understand and I admit that curriculum as a field of study has been characterized as elusive, fragmentary and confusing. But curriculum as a field of study is crucial to the health of educational institutions and society. Other than these concerns of curriculum, we need to have our sound understanding on not only pedagogy, but also andragogy, but also heutagogy too. If you look at concerns of curricular pedagogy, we need to have our own understanding, our own clarity on innovative pedagogies, flipped learning, mobile learning, innovative educators network, synchronous learning model, asynchronous learning model, and many more. I am recalling here one of the curriculum frameworks of 2009, that is NCFTE 2009. And this document begins, in the preface itself, it begins by the lines quoted by, in 2009, quoted by Dr. Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan ji, is 1948-49. So NCFT begins with by saying that people in this country have been slow to recognize that education is a profession. Anil, Dr. Anil ji, can you mute yourself, please? Anil Boyar. Dr. Anil. Thank you. So NCFT begins by saying that people in this country have been slow to recognize that education is a profession for which intensive preparation is necessary as it is in any other profession. मेडिकल में हमको समझ में आ गया कि इंटेंसिव प्रिपरेशन चाहिए, मैनेजमेंट में हमको समझ में आ गया कि इंटेंसिव प्रिपरेशन चाहिए, इंजीनियरिंग में हमको समझ में आ गया कि इंटेंसिव प्रिपरेशन चाहिए. बट इन ऑर्डर टू बिकम अ टीचर, irrespective of status, irrespective of strata, irrespective of position, that in order to become a teacher, we need to have intensive preparation. and the kind of scenario is being what scenario is changing, we need to be more careful. My dear friends, my dear colleagues, again, I think this is last time I'm taking you to the um, uh, report of University Education Commission, where Dr. Sarupalli Radhakrishnan is writing. And we need to learn, we need to infer the message from this statement where Radhakrishnan is saying that the universities as the makers of the future cannot persist in the old patterns, however valid they may have been in their own day. And then he is writing, with the increasing complexity of society and its shifting pattern, universities have to change their objectives and methods if they are to function effectively in our national life. And that is why national education policy is important. National Education Policy 2020 is paving such ways to transform higher education institutions. Now we need to understand the context for some major difficulties. I don't know. I believe that all of you must be having your awareness on 17 Sustainable Development Goals. But I don't know how many of you are aware of the respective targets against each goal. If you are aware, very good. If you are not aware, you can visit the UNDP's website and you can see all the respective targets against each goal. We all are aware of UNDP 17 Sustainable Development Goals, which triggered the whole world, and so is India. Whether it is a goal of no poverty or zero hunger or good health and well-being, quality education on which this National Education Policy 2020 is based, or the goal of gender equality, clean water and sanitation, affordable and clean energy, decent work and economic growth, industry, innovation, infrastructure, reduced inequality, sustainable cities and communities, responsible consumption and production, climate action, life below water, life on land, peace and justice, strong institution, and partnership to achieve the goal. Why these 17 goals are important? Because we all know that these goals are integrated. And when I'm saying integrated, what does it mean? It means that if you will be working on one goal, it will be affecting all other goals. And that is why, if you look at policy document, in the first two paragraph itself, you can easily infer that National Education Policy 2020 document is based on SDG 4, Sustainable Development Goal number 4. And conceiving a kind of goal which says that ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all by 2030. And then policy document is saying that this entire education is to be reconfigured, because such a lofty goal can only be achieved when we will be reconfiguring this entire education system to support and foster learning. Since, as I said in the beginning itself, that I believe that you must have read this document. If you look at document, on the one hand, policy is taking reference from ancient India, and on the other hand, it aims the education system, making this education system flexible, enjoyable, holistic, multidisciplinary, and aligned to the needs of 21st century and 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. Now, because you all are having this document, I don't want to waste your time and my time, and a very less time is there in my hand. And therefore, straight away, I am taking you to the point number 12.6. If you have policy document, you can read it. If you wish, you can read it later from the document 12.6, which says that finally all curriculum, all programs, all courses, all curricula, all pedagogy across subjects, online, offline, in class, out class, ODL mode, and student support, everything will aim to achieve global standards of quality. Will aim to achieve global standards of quality. 12.6. I am referring you the precise point. You can read it later. With reference to 12.6, with reference to the expectations of 12.6, my dear friends, my dear colleagues, I am sorry to say, and this I am sharing from my own experience, that plenty of us serving in higher education institutions are not aware of 7 criterias of NAC and 5 parameters of NIRF. And in this situation, in such a situation, how can I expect them to have their understanding, their awareness on major global higher educational ranking frameworks such as ARWU, that is Academic Ranking of World Universities, or THE, that is Times Higher Education World University Ranking, or Quacquarelli-Symonds World University Ranking, that is popularly known as QS ranking, or Webometrics ranking. And with this background, when National Education Policy 2020 is expecting from us to revamp curriculum, to revamp pedagogy, to revamp assessment, to revamp student support, having global outlook. So now you can relate 2 points, 9.3D and 12.6. 9.3D and 12.6. So when we are having such expectations, having global outlook, we need to work upon, we need to think sincerely from many squares. So those of you are aware of the indicators, of the parameters of NAC and NIRF, very good. But if you are not aware, you just visit today itself, you visit the criterias of NAC, the indicators of the parameters of NIRF, the indicators, parameters of Times ranking framework, or QS ranking framework, or ARWU framework, or Webometrics ranking framework, so that you can have those inputs from where to start your own curriculum. What inputs you are going to put in your curriculum in order to have that global outlook, so that and then only you will be in a position to give global outlook to your curriculum. As I have already shared, that if you analyze the policy document, you will be finding that the whole 66 pages document uses the word global 26 times, uses the word international 15 times, and which is more than sufficient, to make a message loud and clear, so far as internationalization of higher education is concerned, so far as global outreach of higher education is concerned, so far as achieving the idea of Vishwaguru is concerned. So my dear friends, my dear colleagues, in a country where we had been struggling with brain drain, you all are aware of this term, brain drain. So in a country where we had been struggling with brain drain, NAP 2020 introduces a paradigm shift and seems to have provisions for brain gain. And in this background, internationalization, global outreach has 2 primary dimensions to work upon. 2 primary dimensions. Number 1, how to attract foreign students, how to attract foreign talents. Or so to say, how to attract good students, how to attract talent. Number 1. Number 2, how to export our knowledge system and establish our universities abroad. 2 issues we need to think, we need to work upon. We are not going to implement, we cannot achieve all such expectations overnight. So we have good span of time, but we need to work. Nowadays, a few days back, I went to Sikkim as a school board member, and there I met one professor, very good professor, and he recommended one book for me to read. That is, I don't know whether you can see my video or not. If you can see my video, this book I am showing, Atomic Habits. It's a wonderful book for you to read too. You can read this book, and the message is that small actions, efforts, ultimately in turn, after accumulation, results into a big scenario. So we understand, because we are working in higher education institutions of India, we understand, we realize, we feel that we have multiple challenges. We have multiple challenges. I admit it, I accept it, and you all must be accepting this. So we all have multiple challenges at the level of dealing with different mindsets, readiness, and prerequisite understanding for the reason. The National Education Policy 2020 envisions attaining highest global standards in the quality of higher education. In line with National Education Policy 2020, concerted national efforts and interwoven relationship between the government policies and the higher education institutions approaches will make our young generation of learners truly global citizens with deeply rooted pride in being Indian. And therefore, a wide array of activities we need to plan. What kind of these activities? Internationally relevant curricula, brand building of Indian higher education institutions abroad, academic and research collaborations with foreign universities, credit recognition under twinning arrangements, global citizenship approach, and engaging with foreign alumni are few issues which needs urgent and immediate attention. My dear friends, my dear colleagues, I often refer one book of Jiddu Krishnamurti to be read by all teachers, irrespective of position, irrespective of everything. The book of Jiddu Krishnamurti, and the title of the book is Educating the Educator. Educating the Educator. Educating the Educator. Why I'm referring this book? Because where Jiddu Krishnamurti says that if I, as an individual, start contributing my bit, my part, my inputs, and all the individuals like me are contributing their bits, system will automatically be groomed. So these are few important attentions. As a teacher, we can take care of these issues. We can have some core ideas to ensure internationalization of higher education, global outreach of higher education, as suggested by University Grants Commission. You can visit the University Grants Commission website, where they have given this global outreach or internationalization of higher education. They have recommended many inputs, many points. You can have your own understanding. You can have your own reading on the entire issues. So, my dear friends, my dear colleagues, this is what I wanted to share with you all, with my little intelligence, with my little experience. We need to capitalize the momentum created by National Education Policy 2020. We need to revitalize the higher education system with all farsightedness. Hoping for the best, I again congratulate this wonderful HRDC of Gujarat University. I extend my thanks to Dr. Rushi Pandey and Professor Preeti Mayani for giving me this wonderful learning opportunity. Thank you one and all. Now the floor is open from my side.
Sir, so I think we need to wind up.
Yes,
Uh,
please.
on behalf of UGC HRDC and all the participants, uh, I thank Professor Asheesh Srivastava for his lucid presentation on the internationalization of the new education policy. And I could see the depth of his knowledge when he was delivering. And as sir you rightly said that we all need to read this book of on educating the educator, I could see this coming true while you were delivering. So thank you so much, and we look forward for more sessions of yours. Thank you so much.